तमेव लोकशङ्करं नमामि शङ्करं गुरुं नमामि शङ्करं गुरुं नमामि शङ्करं गुरुं.
शृङ्गाद्रिवासाय विधिप्रियाय कारुण्यवाराम्बुधये नताय विज्ञानदायाखिलभाग्यदाय श्रीशारदाख्याय नमो महिम्ने. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. With namaskaras to the Padapadmas of the Ubhay Jagadgurus. In the last session, we had started discussing the stotra Kamalajadayitashtaka of the 33rd Jagadguru, Jagadguru Shri Sacchidananda Shivabhinava Nrsimha Bharati Mahasvamiji. So correspondingly, in the second shloka, the Acharya is discussing the manner in which Devi ended up in Sringeri. So how did Sharada Parameshwari come to be in Sringeri? That story is being detailed very nicely and very succinctly in the second shloka. Kalyadau Parvateshah Pravarasuragana Prarthitah Shrauta Prabalyam Netukamaha Yativara Vapushagatya Yam Shringashaile Samsthapya Archam Prachakre Bahuvidha Nutibhi Satvam Indvardha Choda Vidyam Shuddhancha Buddhim Kamalajadayite Satvarandehi Mahyam. This is the second shloka. So as we said earlier, Acharya is asking that Vidyam Shuddhancha Buddhim, that he quickly receive Shuddha Vidya and Shuddha Buddhi, Atma Jnana and a pure mind from Devi. That is the prarthana. So here Acharya says, Satvam, such a Devata, may you grant me all of this. So what is the nature of that Devata? That is being talked about in the first few padas. Kalyadau. So after Dwapara had ceased, the Dwapara Yuga had ceased and Kali had started. Parvatishaha, Parameshwara, Paramashiva, Pravarasuragana Prarthitaha, having been beseeched by the Devaganas, Shrautavartma Prabalyam Netukamaha, in order that he may reinforce the Vedic Dharma, in order that he may bring back the Vedic Dharma back into its full strength, in order that he may nurse the Vaidika Dharma back to its full strength. Yativara Pusha Agatya, he incarnated in the form of a Paramahamsa, in the form of a great sannyasi, and Shringashaile Yam Samsthapya, and that Devata whom having taken in incarnation as a sannyasi, that Devata whom Bhagavatpada established in Sringagiri and worshipped, may you, that Devata, Indvardha Choda, with the crescent moon on your forehead, may you give me Vidyam Shuddhancha Buddhim. This is the quick summary of the shloka. So here we see that Kalyado, in the beginning of Kali, Parvateshaha, Parameshwara, Pravarasuragana Prarthitaha, he was beseeched by the Devaganas to take avatara and to protect Sanatana Dharma. Why do the Devatas care about Sanatana Dharma? Whether there are astikas on this earth or not, whether there is someone doing a yaga or not, whether there is someone doing a puja or not, what does the Devata have to benefit from that? So why do the Devaganas care? We see in the Gita, Devan Bhavayatanena Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha Parasparam Bhavayantaha Shreyah Param Avapsyatha. There is a mutual relationship between the Manushya Loka and the Deva Loka. When Manavas follow Dharma, when Manushyas follow Dharma, and when Manushyas do Yajnas properly, when Manushyas do Satkarma, and when Manushyas fulfill their duty, the Devaloka attains Samruddhi. The Devaloka is preserved. Then the Devaloka will do their part, raining, giving bountiful crops, the sun not being too hot, winters not being too cold, Prakriti functioning in a pleasant manner, in a manner that is conducive to the flourishing of human life. That is what the Devaloka gives back to us. So this is a Paraspara Sambandha. There is a relationship that goes, this is a relationship that goes both ways here. So once the situation of India then was, Nastika Matas had increased. Astika matas had decreased. Veda Shraddha was running very low. So there was no Dharma Shraddha, no Veda means no Dharma, no Dharma means no Satkarma, no Satkarma means the ahutis and the sustenance that the devatas received was running very low. So it is also imperative to the devatas that dharma be followed in Bhuloka. So when the devatas saw this situation, they say in Shankara Digvijaya also, Katham yajñāh pravarteran shrute pidhati shrotre kraturityakshara-dvaye Katham yajñāh pravarteran katham kratabhujo vayam. So the situation then was, there was so much Veda dvesha, so much hatred towards Veda, that if anyone even heard the word yajna, they would close their 2 ears like this. So there was so much dvesha towards the Vaidika Marga then, that such hatred was there towards Vedic practices. So the devatas were telling Parameshwara, if this is the situation in Bhuloka, how will yajnas take place? If yajnas do not take place, how will we partake of the ahutis of the yajnas and receive sustenance? So this is one thing. The second part is that even amongst the remaining Vaidikas, the Antahkalaha, internal conflict was rampant. Shaivas, Shaktas, Vaishnavas, Sauras, in the meantime Ganapatas, Kapalikas, Bhairavas, these people are all fighting amongst each other. So this is one problem that was there. One more problem that was there was that many tamasic practices had crept into the daily practices of people. So for example, excessive Jantu Bali, some things like this, use of illicit substances during worship, occult practices. So all of this had found its way and mixed into sattvic practices. So with all of this, dharma, the practice of dharma itself had gone down. The people who were following dharma were not letting each other follow dharma. That is the internal conflict. And because of this tamasic practice seeping into dharma, the dharma that was followed also was not completely efficacious. So such was the state of dharma before Bhagavad Pada incarnated. When Bhagavad Pada did incarnate, though, the intent was Shrautavartma Prabalyam Netu Kamaha, so that the Shrautavartma, the Vaidika Marga, would be brought into full strength. So having incarnated how Yativara Vapusha, Bhagavad Acharya, Paramashiva decided that the best Rupa to do Vedodhara is a Yati. Why a Yati? If it is a Grahastha or a Brahmachari, they have other duties. The Brahmachari has to do Agnikarya, he has to do Shastradhyayana, he has to do Swadhyaya. So all of these duties are there for a Brahmachari. For a Grahastha, enough said. The entire weight of the society rests on the weight of the Grahasthas. He has the responsibility to feed and clothe the Grahastha, the Brahmacharis and the Sannyasis. He has to provide for himself and his family. So all of this is there. So in the Brahmacharya, Grahastha and Vanaprasthashramas, there is a significant amount of time that is taken up in one's own duty. A sannyasi, though, has very little, minimal anhika that a sannyasi has to do for himself. Everything else is what a sannyasi wants to do for Atmajnana, and the rest of the time can be spent however the sannyasi wants. Ideally, it should be spent in Atmadhyana, but if the sannyasi also wants to spend it in Dharma Prachara, there is nothing greater than that. There is nothing more that Dharma could want from a sannyasi. So, Paramashiva chose to be born as a sannyasi so that this Dharmodhara could be done with all efforts possible. And Bhagavad Pada addressed all of these problems one by one. So the Nastikas were addressed in Vada, so Veda Pramanya was re-established and Vaidika practices were also re-established. In the same way, the internal conflict was resolved by showing that it is only one Paramatma that is worshipped in many names and forms. And in order to do that, Bhagavad Pada helped us by giving us the Panchayatana Devata Puja Vyavastha. So this Panchayatana, wherein the Ishta Devata is placed in the middle and the other 4 Devatas are placed around the sides but still worshipped. So what this ensures is, you worship your Ishta Devata. Your favorite form of Bhagavan will be placed in the middle as the most important. But that does not mean that you neglect the worship of other forms of Bhagavan. That does not mean that other forms of Bhagavan are not worthy of worship. So that this Panchayatana Devata Archana is a constant reminder that you like one form of Bhagavan, but all other forms of Bhagavan are also extremely worthy of worship. And in due course of time, you should get the thought that this form of Bhagavan is no different from this form of Bhagavan, and that is no different from this form of Bhagavan. So all these rupas that I have in my Panchayatana are forms of the same Bhagavan. So that is the path that this Panchayatana Aradhana is supposed to take you in. And in the same way, the removal of tamasic practices. In some places, in fact, the Devata itself was not there. For example, we have one story that comes in the Puranas and in history, the story of Badari. So when Bhagavatpada went to Badari for the first time, there the Vigraha Vishnu was not there on the pedestal in the Devalaya where it was supposed to be. So Bhagavatpada inquired with the local people, saying, where is the Vigraha here? There is clearly a temple that has been constructed. There is a Garbhagriha, but why is the Garbhagriha empty? The local residents then said, in course of Avaidika Matas, they have come here, they have done Akramana, they have taken away this Murti and thrown it into a frigid lake nearby. That lake is extremely cold, is so cold that normal humans cannot go in and swim. If they go in, they will freeze. So it is so cold and so deep. So they have thrown the Vigraha into that, and we have not known what to do. So it has remained empty. So Bhagavatpada immediately, having illustrious yogic capabilities, Bhagavatpada leaps into that lake, jumps in, recovers the Vigraha of Narayana, and does Pratishtha of Narayana in Badari. So this is one incident where Bhagavatpada has restored a Devata to a place wherein that Devata Sanidhya was forcibly removed from. Another thing we see is, for example, that we get in the Madhavya Shankar Digvijaya is in Kanchi. So as Bhagavatpada does Kshetra Yatra, Bhagavatpada comes to Kanchi, wherein he sees that there Kamakshi is being worshipped in a Tamasika Vidhara. So there Bhagavatpada removes the tamasic practices, has a temple be built there, and then immediately leaves the place of Kanchi. So we say, the reason I am bringing this up is even places where Bhagavatpada comes and goes. See, in Badari, Bhagavatpada stayed for a while. Bhagavatpada had already spent some time there writing the Bhashyas. Bhagavatpada went there again in the end of his avatara after the Sarvajna Pethadirohana. It is there that Bhagavatpada also established the Uttaramnaya Petha, the Joshi Petha, so the Jyotish Petha. So all of this happened there. So not just in places where Bhagavatpada stayed for a while, even places where Bhagavatpada came and went. It was a stop and go affair. Even in places like that, in Kanchi, Bhagavatpada did so much, putting a Devalaya and making sure that tamasic practices were removed. In Tirupati, a Dhanayantra was established so that the Tirupati may attain dhana samriddhi and dharma karyas can happen with that wealth. So we have seen the results of that till this day. So all of this falls under helping the Devata Vyavastha and ensuring that Sanatana Dharma has unity within, and that followers of different sects are not quarreling amongst each other. Then we also have the third part, which is people have lost sight of what the true purport of Dharma is. People have lost sight of Dharma and also what Vedanta is. So many Shastras had lost their path. They had lost their way. They had wandered off from the path they should have been on. So Tarka went off its way. Rather than Tarka being something that is used to prove the Vedantas, Tarka completely neglected the Vedantas and went off making its own Kalpanas. In the same way, Mimamsa, which is very much necessary, it is a very great Shastra that is necessary and that teaches us how to interpret Veda. So that Shastra, instead of teaching us how to interpret Purva Mimamsa, the Karmakanda and the Jnanakanda, instead became relegated to the Karmakanda and instead started saying that the Jnanakanda actually has no meaning at all. It is only a subservient Arthavada, it is only a Stutimatra, it has no meaning in itself. Moksha and all does not, the moksha that you all want does not exist. And such things were being said by the Mimamsakas. So in all such cases where the Shastra Siddhanta itself was placed into confusion, there Bhagavatpada refuted the Shastras and then used the Shastras again to show Vedanta. So Bhagavatpada never discarded these Shastras. Bhagavatpada refutes the Siddhantas of Nyaya and Mimamsa and all, and then uses those very same Siddhantas in order to establish Advaita Vedanta. And we will see how that has happened also when we talk about the Shankara Digvijaya. So in course of these travels, Bhagavatpada came to Sringeri, saw the snake and the frog. We have talked about that story and did Pratishtha of Sharada here. How did Bhagavad do Pratishtha of Sharadamba here? Once I had asked Acharya, because I was writing something, I was writing some kavya in which we had to describe the Pratishtha of Sharada Amba here in Sringeri, and I asked Acharya. So usually in the loka we see that many things are done. First the Vigraha is sculpted, then some Dhanyadhivasa, Jaladhivasas all are done, then some japas are done elsewhere, then abhishekas are done to the Vigraha with that mantrita jala, then some nikshepas are put, the Navaratnas, Navadhanyas, some Suvarna, all of those are put as nikshepas. On top of that a yantra is put, on top of that some Oshadhi is put, and the Devata is joined to the yantra, to the Pitha and all of that. So all of this happens, and then in the end Netronvilana happens. Should I write all of this when I write about Bhagavad Pada's Pratishtha? And there Sannidhanam Varu told me that this is the way that we do it in the loka, because we don't want to allow any room for error. We do not, usually a general person will not have the tapashakti of Bhagavad Pada or of Vidyaranya Mahaswami or of the 33rd Acharya or 32nd Acharya. A normal person will not have that much tapashakti. So for him to be able to properly invoke the Devata's presence in that Vigraha, all of this has to be done. But Bhagavad Pada is a mantra siddha. Bhagavad Pada has attained fruition in every single mantra. And Bhagavad Pada is a great Anushtata and a great Upasaka. If Bhagavad Pada calls, the Devata will come running. So for such a Mahatma, there is no need to go through all of this process to do Devata Pratishtha. So Bhagavad Pada just meditated upon Devi, and by force of the mantra itself, the Kala, the life force, the Chaitanya of Devi was, the Vigraha was imbued with that Chaitanya of Devi, and that was put on top of the Sri Chakra that Bhagavad Pada himself had drawn out. So that is once what Sannidhanam Varu had told me. So Samsthapya Archam Prachakre, Bhagavad Pada worshipped you in Sringeri, Bahuvidhanutibihi, with many praises. That is what we see as the Sharada Bhujanga Prayata Stotra today. The praise that Bhagavad Pada did of Devi is the Sharada Bhujanga Prayata Stotra that we chant today. So Satvam Indvardha Choda. So such a Devata, so you are such a Devata, O Devi. You bear the Indvardha Choda, the Chandra Rekha on your head. The Chandra Rekha, Chandra is a sign of time, because it is with Chandra that we count the Pakshas, the Tithis, the Masas. 2 Pakshas make a Masa, 2 Masas make a Rutu. In this way, all of our counts of time are based off of the moon. So, if the Nitya Kala, so that Rekha of the moon that does not change, the moon on Devi's head does not grow and it does not wane. It does not wax and it does not wane. So, this shows that Devi is beyond time. She is beyond the constraints of space and time. So, you bear that Chandra Rekha on your forehead. You bear the crescent moon on your forehead. So, such a Devata, you are such a Devata, O Sharadamba. So, may you please give me Vidyam Shuddhancha Buddhim Kamalajadayite Sattvarandehi Mahyam. May you give me Atma Vidya, and may you give me a pure mind. So, on our behalf, Acharya has prayed to Devi like this. So, let us all also pray to Devi like this. And in the next shloka, Acharya will show us what it is that we should ask from Devi. We will see that in the next episode. Namah Shankaraya.
Namami Shankaram Guru.